Good morning everyone, Travis here. I'm here to demo a quick yoga routine for those of us with lower back pain. The structure of the routine is repetitive, and if something has an easier variation, I'll start that way, then move to the harder variation after. If you already know which one works for you, then just do that however many times it happens. Enjoy. Okay, so we want to start in a cross-legged pose. Straighten out our back to start with. That'll help a little bit. Then when we're ready, we're going to go into a forward fold, leaving our legs crossed. Hold there for about 10 seconds. And then release back. Now you want to switch which leg is on top. Sit there for 10 more seconds. And then another forward fold. Your breathing should be even. Don't really have to force it with the movements as long as it's consistent. So we're going to sit back at the top again, but with straight legs. Then we're going to forward fold as much as you can. Try and really stretch that back. These are more like hamstring stretches that use the back, but since downward facing dog is hamstring, better to do the hamstrings first. So now, downward facing dog. If it's hard to do, then you can put the hands and the feet closer together like that. Then we want to roll forward a little bit. I forget all of the silly names for these. These are, there's a Sphinx pose, and then there's a nice Cobra pose, or upward facing dog. I don't really do the regression versions because I like the bigger stretch. So I've reached a little bit further with my arms, show that you can do that, especially for us taller people. Then another one, our up dog. You can kind of leave your lower body on the ground in that if you want. I tend to leave it up when I'm doing it, but that's just personal preference. So then there's the full stretch, followed by the upwards one that I like to do. Okay, now we're going to do a child's pose. Relax that back a little bit. Then we're going to get into our all fours. So remember, shoulders over hands. And then we're going to do cat-cow. So curl, then straighten. The breathing on this is good. So usually you can breathe out when you're straightening out. You don't have to. And then now we're going to take one arm through, turn, and then kind of sit there for a bit. It's good to have some twisting motions. Kind of helps with the spine. Then we're going to go back to cat-cow for one more cycle of both. And then we'll do the other side on the twist. Okay, then we do one more cat-cow to kind of shake that out. Now we're going to go back to child's pose, mainly to give the back a break a second, because we're about to get into something a bit harder. So I'm moving forward so I can still be in frame. This is a camel pose, so the easier version, I don't really do that much, but you kind of barely touch the toes or the heels. You can also use yoga blocks or books if you can't reach back that far to make it a higher surface. Then we go back to child's pose. Camel pose is really like my favorite of the back stretches, but you can't just do it. It's pretty intense. So this is the version I'm more familiar with. A bit further back. That real good sink. And then another child's pose. Okay, now we're gonna readjust a little bit so that we're in frame. We're doing this glute bridge. I usually put my hands there just to show that there's no motion from the, or no assistance from the shoulders. This is really a glute exercise, but it's kind of funny. They usually say it's a glute exercise, but your lower back gets recruited is a bad thing. But since it's so low intensity, I think it's fine to do for lower back work. It's also a good warm-up for our finisher at the end, which we'll get to in a little bit. So lastly, before we get to that, we're going to do a plow. That always feels good on my back, but I think it's because I have like an extra long torso. So results may vary. We'll see. Okay, so lastly, we're going to go for a back bridge. It's really hard to do if you've never done one, so I recommend either using a ball like that or a higher surface. You definitely want, if you don't have a yoga mat, do this against a wall because your hands might slide if you've got carpet. But you basically want to extend your arms so that they're straight and your legs so that they're pushing you up. With the ball, it's pretty easy, so we rest for a little bit. Then we move the ball a little bit more down. Let me push a little bit more. I also have aerobic step, which I was using when I was rehabbing a back injury I had. And I was using that to get into the back bridge because I couldn't reach the ground completely for a bit. But I finally got it now. Right there, I kicked the ball and then it rolled down the stairs and I had to go get it. But yeah, there's your back bridge. So you want to hold that. It's going to feel like impossible, but that should be good enough.